Folks, let me tell you something. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important waterways on the face of this earth, is closed. Iran has shut it down, and they are telling the United States of America that it will stay shut down until we, quote, correct our behavior. Correct our behavior. Correct our behavior. I have to tell you, I cannot decide if that is the most audacious thing I have heard in 30 years of sitting behind this microphone, or if it is simply the funniest. Because only the mullahs in Tehran, a regime that has been one accident away from total economic collapse for years, only they could look at the most powerful country that has ever existed on God's green earth and say, "You need to fix yourself before we'll let your oil through." My friends. My friends, this is the world we are living in right now, and we are going to get into every inch of it today. We've also got a Texas pastor, and I use that term loosely, who got caught on tape giggling about hiding illegal immigrants from ICE. We've got Kamala Harris back out there doing what Kamala does best, which is being wrong about everything in the most confident voice possible. And there is a story about a climate change filmmaker with a second home in Ireland who is telling you, that billions of people are going to die because of oil. It is a magnificent Monday in America, folks. I'm Rick LeBeau. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. Now, for those of you just tuning in, here is what happened. Iran's top national security official, and yes, they have one of those, they have a whole apparatus over there, very official, very serious people, came out and announced that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed to shipping. Closed. And not just closed with conditions. A list of demands, things America must do before Iran graciously agrees to allow oil to flow again through a waterway that, last time I checked, they do not own. Now, let me give you a little geography lesson here, not because you need it, but because I want to paint the picture. The Strait of Hormuz is this narrow little channel between Iran and Oman, and roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through it every single day. Every single day. Tankers, LNG carriers, all of it. It is the jugular vein of the global energy market, and Iran has had its hand on that vein for decades, using it as a threat whenever they want attention. Whenever sanctions bite a little too hard, whenever they need a card to play at the table. Well, now they've played it. And J.D. Vance said this weekend that we are in the, quote, middle of the game, which is true, and which I appreciate him saying, because it is the kind of plain language that doesn't pretend we've already won and doesn't panic like we've already lost. That's good. That's the right tone. But my friends, let's not paper over what this is. This is Iran, calculating, cornered, and dangerous. The regime over there, the mullahs, the Revolutionary Guards, the whole theocratic apparatus that has been running that country into the ground since 1979, they are under enormous pressure right now. The sanctions have been biting. The population has been restless. And a cornered regime does not get more reasonable. It gets more reckless. Here is the thing about Iran that the drive-by media will never, ever fully explain to you, because it would make the story too simple and too clear, and they can't have that. The Islamic Republic of Iran has, since its founding, needed an enemy. It requires an enemy. The whole identity of the regime, death to America, death to Israel, the whole theological and political project of Khomeinism is built on resistance. Resistance to the West, resistance to the great Satan, which is us, resistance to the little Satan, which is Israel. Without that posture of resistance, what are they? They're just a government that has failed its people spectacularly for 40-plus years. The economy is a wreck. The currency has been obliterated. Young Iranians, and Iran is a young country, Young Iranians are not sitting around cheering for the mullahs. They are trying to get out. They have been in the streets repeatedly. The women have been pulling off their hijabs in public. The regime has been shooting protesters. So when they close the Strait of Hormuz, understand what they are doing. They are not doing it from a position of strength. They are doing it from a position of desperation. That is not a comfort, by the way. Desperate regimes are capable of exactly the things that strong regimes are not. They have less to lose. Now, the demands they have issued. I have this story here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. Let me just tell you the nature of what they are asking for. They want the United States to correct its behavior. That is the umbrella. Beneath that umbrella are grievances about sanctions, about our support for Israel, about our military presence in the region, about basically everything we have been doing in the Middle East for the last several decades. Correct your behavior. You know what that reminds me of. That reminds me of a teenager who has been caught stealing from the register and then lectures the store owner about the wage gap. The sheer audacity of it is frankly a little breathtaking. Iran's proxies just spent years destabilizing half the Arab world. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, these are Iranian projects, Iranian-funded, Iranian-armed. They were launching drones at our bases, at our troops, at our allies. They need to correct their behavior. And I know there are people watching CNN right now. If anyone is watching CNN, where they are desperately trying to figure out how to make this Donald Trump's fault. Maybe it's the sanctions. Maybe he was too tough. Maybe we should have stayed in the nuclear deal. Maybe if we'd just been nicer to the Ayatollahs, they would have been nicer to us. And on and on and on the cycle goes. That is the logic that gave us the Obama years, where we literally pelleted cash onto a plane and flew it to Tehran in the middle of the night. Cash on a plane to Iran. And what did we get for it? We got the very nuclear program they are still running. The Iran deal was one of the greatest diplomatic disasters of my lifetime, and I have lived through some spectacular diplomatic disasters. You give the most aggressive state sponsor of terrorism in the world a pathway to a nuclear weapon, and you give them $150 billion to pursue it, and you expect what exactly? Gratitude? Peace? A strongly worded thank you note from the Supreme Leader? It does not work that way. Now, the question before the House right now is, what does the United States do? Vance is right that we are in the middle of this. Diplomacy is still being applied. Pressure is still being applied. I am not one of these people who immediately reaches for the military option the second a crisis breaks out. Though let me be very clear, I am not one of these people who takes it off the table either, and I will explain why in a moment. The diplomatic track here matters, but it has to be conducted from a position of absolute credibility. The Iranians have to believe, not wonder, not hope, believe that there is a real consequence waiting for them if this continues. The moment they think the threats are hollow, the moment they think we're going to blink, is the moment this gets much, much worse. And this is what conservatives understand about foreign policy that the left will never, ever accept. And it has been demonstrated over and over again in our history. Peace through strength is not a bumper sticker. It is the only thing that has ever worked. Reagan didn't bring the Soviet Union to its knees by sending them strongly worded letters. He built up the military to a point where the other side calculated that the cost of continued confrontation was higher than the cost of standing down. That is how you do it. The Iranians understand one thing clearly: cost. They are running a risk calculation every single day. Our job is to make sure that calculation keeps coming out the same way, that the cost of this behavior is too high. Right now, they are testing whether we have the nerve, and I believe we do. I believe this administration has demonstrated more than once that it is willing to make hard decisions and live with the noise that comes from making them. But the Hormuz closure is not just a military and diplomatic story, my friends. It is an energy story. It is a price story. It is a your wallet story. Because if that strait stays closed for any meaningful amount of time, you are going to feel it at the pump. You are going to feel it in the cost of everything that gets shipped anywhere. The global economy runs on oil. Our economy runs on oil. Cheap, abundant, American and otherwise sourced energy is not a luxury. It is the foundation of everything. And this is why I have been saying for years that American energy independence is not just an economic policy. It is a national security policy. It is a foreign policy. Every barrel we produce here, every LNG terminal we build, every pipeline we run, that is one less barrel of leverage that the mullahs have over our lives. The left screams about this. The environmentalist wackos tear their hair out. Oil, fossil fuels, the planet, the children. And meanwhile, Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, and the whole world gets a very brisk refresher course on why energy is power, why energy is independence, why the green fantasy of powering civilization on wind and wishes is not a policy, it is a prayer. Drill here. Drill now. Build the pipelines, beef up the strategic petroleum reserve, develop relationships with every allied producer on Earth, because what happens in the Strait of Hormuz today is exactly the argument for American energy dominance that I have been making since before half our current listeners were born. Don't doubt me on this one, folks. Never have, never should. The game is in the middle, as Vance says. But the end game has to be unambiguous. Iran backs down, the strait opens, and the regime is left with the very clear understanding that this particular move does not pay. That is what winning looks like. And with this administration, I believe we get there. All right, folks, let's clear the deck on a few other items making the rounds, because there is no shortage of material. There never is. God bless this country. It provides. First up, James Talarico, Texas state legislator, ordained minister, and apparently very proud of himself. Fox News got their hands on tape of this gentleman, and I use the word loosely, giggling on tape about the fact that his church housed an undocumented family that ICE was looking to deport. And he said, and this is the quote, folks, I am not making this up, he said that Christianity is, quote, just another word for causing trouble. Now, I want to be fair here. There is a long tradition of churches providing sanctuary. It is a history with some genuine depth to it, and I respect the sincerity of many people who have participated in it over the years. But that is not what this is. What this is a man with a political agenda using the cloth as a costume. The giggling is the tell. The giggling is the tell. A man of actual faith who is doing something he believes is morally required, even at personal legal risk, does not giggle about it on tape. He does not brag. He does not do a little victory lap about how he is causing trouble. That is the behavior of someone who is playing a role, someone who has found that wrapping left-wing politics in religious language gives it an immunity from criticism that the naked politics would never get. And the left has been doing this for years. Liberation theology, the sanctuary movement, social justice Christianity, it all starts from the same place. Take the symbols and the language of the most respected moral institution in Western civilization and repurpose them for the Democratic Party platform. And then, when anyone objects, how dare you? You're attacking the church. You're attacking our faith. No, we are attacking the fraud. There is a difference. ICE is a law enforcement agency. It enforces laws passed by Congress. Those laws apply to everyone. The fact that James Talarico finds those laws inconvenient does not make him a martyr. It makes him someone who thinks his political preferences supersede the law of the land. And the giggling is the sound of a man who believes he is untouchable. He is not untouchable. And the tape says everything you need to know. Moving on. Kamala Harris, our former vice president, Madam Almost President. The woman who, against all odds, made Joe Biden's tenure look like a golden age of coherent communication. She is out there this week going after the Save America Act, specifically the part that requires proof of citizenship to register to vote. Trump himself shared the video, and she is ranting about it, really wound up, really exercised. Apparently the idea that you should be able to prove you are an American citizen before voting in American elections is, to Kamala Harris, an outrage, an assault on democracy, an injustice of the first order. Now, I ask you, my friends, I ask you in the most sincere way I know how, why would anyone object to proving citizenship to vote? Take your time. Think it through. The only coherent answer, the only answer that actually explains the passion with which the left opposes this, is that they are counting on votes from people who cannot prove citizenship. That's it. That is the whole ballgame. Every argument they make about disenfranchisement and barriers and voter suppression is a wrapper around that one simple calculation. They need those votes. They cannot afford the requirement. Scott Presler, who runs Early Vote Action, was on Breitbart warning Republican senators that if they don't deliver the SAVE Act, the primary voters are coming for them. And good for Scott Presler. The Senate Republicans who are dragging their feet on this need to understand something very simple. You were not sent to Washington to be comfortable. You were sent to Washington to deliver. Deliver, or the people who sent you will find someone who will. Kamala Harris ranting against proving citizenship to vote. I will let you sit with that image for a moment. The woman who wanted to be president of the United States does not think you should have to prove you are a citizen of the United States to participate in its elections. This is what the Democratic Party has become, folks. This is not your grandfather's opposition party. This is something else entirely. And finally, and I have to do this one because it is too good to skip, Adam McKay. You may know Adam McKay as the director of Anchorman. Wonderful film, tremendous film. I have no complaints about that film. You may also know him as one of Hollywood's premier climate doomers. He made Don't Look Up, the film where the comet is a metaphor for climate change, and everyone who doesn't panic is a Republican idiot. He goes around telling anyone who will listen that billions of people are going to die because of the oil industry. Billions will die. He also has a second home in Ireland, which he flies to on airplanes, which run on jet fuel, which comes from oil. Now, when somebody pointed this out to him, McKay addressed it. Indirectly, he apparently acknowledged the question and then moved on. Did not explain, did not apologize, did not sell the Irish estate and donate the proceeds to a windmill fund. Just acknowledged that, yes, there is a question there, and, well, these things happen, and, you know, it's complicated, and, well, billions will die, but he needs the weekend place. My friends, there is a word for this, and the word is aristocracy. These people do not believe what they are telling you. They cannot believe it. If Adam McKay truly believed that his transatlantic flights were contributing to a death toll in the billions, he would not take them. No mentally healthy human being knowingly participates in mass death for the convenience of a second home in County Cork. What he believes, what all of them believe deep down, is that the rules are for you. The sacrifice is for you. The smaller car, the heat pump, the bugs for protein future that the green movement has mapped out, that is for you, the regular person, to accept with gratitude. They will keep their planes and their houses and their film budgets, and they will lecture you about your gas stove. I have been saying this for decades. The environmentalist movement has never been about the environment. It has been about control. About who gets to live large and who gets told to live small, and about making sure the people doing the telling are never the ones doing the living small. Adam McKay, with his Irish getaway, is just the latest and most delicious illustration of that fact. Exhibit, I've lost count. My friends, what a day it is to be an American. I mean that. I mean every word of it. In spite of everything, in spite of the mullahs and the sanctuary gigglers and the climate hypocrites and Kamala out there somewhere ranting into a camera, this is still the most extraordinary country that has ever been assembled on the face of this earth. And the reason I know that is because this country produces people who push back, people who call their senators, people who ask the hard questions, people who notice when a filmmaker jets to Ireland while telling them to stop driving. That is not a stupid people. That is not a beaten people. That is a people that has not yet decided to quit. The Strait of Hormuz will open again. Iran will blink. They always blink when they believe the cost is real. The SAVE Act fight is worth having, and the people who are dragging their feet on it will be reminded, pleasantly or otherwise, that elections have consequences, primaries included. And James Talarico's giggle is going to follow him around for a good long while. Pay attention, stay loud, and remember, the all-knowing, all-sensing, all-seeing Maha Ricky has been telling you how this works, and I have yet to be seriously wrong about any of it, with half my brain tied behind my back, just to make it fair. I'm Rick LeBeau. This has been Rush Hour, same time tomorrow, if they let us back on.